Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Impactful Teamwork, and I'm Julia Felton, your host, and today I am delighted to bring another guest to you. And today I am joined by Ryan Ware, and Ryan is the CEO of Connective Consulting Group, and he has a passion for curiosity. And what I really loved, and one of the reasons I wanted to invite Ryan on today, was because he is really passionate about curiosity, but also he's working in an industry, in the construction industry, where he is always working with dynamic teams, never the same group of people building the same house or office building. So I thought he could bring a lot of value to us today. Ryan, welcome to Impactful Teamwork, and we're absolutely delighted to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Julia. I appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation. And yes, curiosity is my greatest passion. So
Yeah.
glad we're able to talk through that.
Curiosity. Why do you think curiosity is so important in business?
I think a lot of times we want everybody to have the exact answer, right? Hey, we got to this point and we know it, and therefore we just keep handing that down. And in an industry like construction where some things have changed, many things have not. In this hand me down of, oh, that's just how we've done it, and I was taught this, it made me start to realize, especially when I had kids, learning new math in the States, I'm teaching my kid and I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. like how am I supposed to teach him? And you start to realize, hey, all of this hand me down of information, of telling people the answers, makes us not question, like, when did I learn this? Who told me this? Is the situation even valid anymore that I should be utilizing it? So I just think going back to that child's mindset of it's okay to not know, and be more excited about just the pure not knowing and exploration piece. And I think that's what got me into it in this industry. I was like working in it as an architect and got into construction. I was like, why is nobody adopting a lot of these? Or why do they think this way? So I got into just the neuroscience behind, and it made me just realize, like, it's our lack of space and ability to go back into curiosity.
Yeah,
So
I love
it's just
that.
become this huge piece for me.
Yeah, sorry. And I love that because it's so much, we've always done it like that, isn't it? Whenever we try and put change into an organization, why do we want to do it? We've always done it like this. And there was always that good old story that goes around in the whole personal development world where the lady goes and puts a big joint of beef in the oven and cuts off both ends. And she just keeps doing it. One day somebody goes, why do you do that? And she's like, I don't know, because that's what my gran used to do. And then she goes and speaks to her gran, and I just had to do it because my oven wasn't big enough. But how we take on board these things that we've seen without ever questioning why we're doing them that way.
I love that analogy. I actually heard that story before, and it's true because we play it like it's a game of telephone and everything that we've learned without doing any validation. It's the fear of AI and these things of, you're the human, you got to validate. You can't just always trust, but you can't always distrust. So how do you find that balance of curiosity to explore? But yeah, that's spot on. It's like I needed to know. I could sit and copy what was done before as an architect from a detailing standpoint.
Sure.
But how do I know if it even worked last time? I don't know if that worked last time. I don't know what questions there were, what RFIs, without really just backing up and being like, who are the players that are going to be involved into this project? What is it they actually need? And sometimes you go to them and just start asking questions, because I'm like, I don't want to waste my time. That's all I knew is without curiosity, I could potentially just waste a bunch of time of a bunch of people. by trusting something that I never validated
Mm.
for myself. So yeah, don't cut it down if you haven't asked the question.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a fear, isn't there? And I'd be really interested in your perspective on this about sometimes leaders, there's almost a little bit of, I think, fear around that curiosity, isn't there? Because sometimes it's,
Yeah.
ignorance is bliss. Oh, that's how they did it last time. So it must have worked, like without, like you say, with even validating that it did work last time. But then
Yeah.
there's a comfort blanket.
Yeah, there is. You're right. There's fear on both sides. There's fear to say something when you don't. We've seen that, especially here in the States. Like, I'm a Gen Xer, so the Challenger in the 80s was the big thing for me as I studied it more. Like, there were people saying things, but there were people not listening. And it's sometimes the curse of knowledge, sometimes it's that fear from both sides. Fear, I'm going to lose something because I value that current state more than that future state. So if I
Yeah.
let go of this, I don't know that new area and it's going to be embarrassing. It might make me feel irrelevant. Whatever the feeling is real. From a leader standpoint, or someone even driving some of the change, like the more you hold on to it, the more valuable you feel.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. If they don't ask for it, they won't want it. And it's a little bit of a dangerous area on both sides when you're dealing with
Mm,
change of not understanding how the humans are going to be impacted
mm,
by it to that fear to curiosity. Are you going to take my job away? Are you going to hold
yeah.
this against me? Like you said, the blame game. And that is an area of psychological safety, right?
Yeah.
That's creating this area where it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to test. It's okay to try and to explore. But that also requires space. It also,
Mm,
and then leaders here, money. It's money. It's money.
mm,
It's going to impact the bottom line. Fear is an enormous part because we're human. And by recognizing that fear, I always say name it for
yeah.
what it is. Speak about it as a group, as a team. What is it you fear you're going to lose? And let's talk about what you feel you have and go through, like I said before, how did you learn that? How did you get to know it? And get them to understand is, hey, it got you to this point. It doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It actually is now provided the value for you to
Mhm.
take the next step,
Yeah.
to walk into this foggy area that you don't recognize or something that is going to help you and benefit the team as a whole. So,
Yeah. And I think in the world that we live in today, where the rate of change is crazy fast, that need for curiosity is, I think, bigger than ever. We all know the current challenges with AI and where people have
mhm.
gone in terms of, oh God, I'm going to lose my job. But you and I both really understand that AI is there to support us, and we just need to be curious about how it can support us because at the end of the day, it's all about human connection. And I know that you're really
Yeah.
passionate about how do we put that human element back into the workplace?
Yeah. My primary area is I called the firm Connective because I
Mm,
wanted to connect the human to the change, but I wanted to connect all parts of the business. I always take like an operational approach to things. I've been in the service industry my whole career, and we treat things sometimes like they're machines,
mm,
but I'm always like, well, they're people. Like they're humans. So like anything that they feel is real, and they're either going to resist or they're going to not be, it'll be a forced compliance situation. And
yeah.
forced compliance is never as strong as you would want it to be. And if you're a leader and you're paying for all of this solution technology, like you said, with AI and everything else, wouldn't you want to know the humans are understanding the message? They understand the goals, that they are willing participants in the process change, the technology integration, like whatever it is. How do you connect that
Mm,
human piece? Like, how do you connect the humans to that change? And the answer is not, there is no rubber stamp, there's no silver
yeah.
bullet to it because the only thing that, like you said, fear, the only thing we all have in common is we like to move really fast. We build habits and routines, but we forgot how to learn. We forgot how to
Yeah.
learn because we stay in the patterns. We just stay in those
Mm,
habits because our brain wants us to be there, but we don't slow down and say, it's okay, I don't know this. It's okay, they don't know this. It is, I'll quote Amy Edmondson from Harvard, it is new territory, and we just need to figure out
Mm,
together how to get our own clarity through that stage, through that next step. So, yeah, fear to curiosity, opening the door, test, treat it like a laboratory, treat things like you've never seen them before. And in construction, the convergence is happening in the office to the project sites inside the factories. You have all the different technology feeding machines to additive manufacturing to new processes, new delivery models. And yeah, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like a
hmm
lot.
Sure.
So leaders can't just be looking for a silver bullet to save the bottom line. They have to put the strategy behind it and get the buy-in of the team, which means the team has to be connected
Mm.
at the human level to it.
Yeah. And I love that because I talk a lot about connection too. So I loved it when your business was called Connective Consulting Group. And I was looking on your website with the kind of chain links together because I think what's so important and why I love the word connected really is because we need to connect to people human to human, but it's
Mhm.
also all the other connections that exist around us. I reference nature a lot, and in nature, everything is
Yeah.
interconnected, right? And interdependent. And I think we've forgotten in business that we just sometimes think about ourselves as a little silo and we forget that
Yeah.
the decisions you make have got an impact on everyone else you're working with. The decisions I make have got an impact. The decisions our colleagues make have an impact on us. And this
Yeah.
kind of what I call ripple effect is so important. So I'm really curious, therefore, when you're on a construction project where you've got lots of, like you said, a team that is really more a group of people all working together towards the same end, but they haven't worked together before. How do you help people build this level of connection so that people start understanding that they've got to collaborate and work together to get to the success and the result that we want?
Yeah. It Part of the industry has done a really good job with new delivery models. So in
Right.
the States, there's different contract models that bring the parties in to get into what's called a more of a alternative or collaborative area to engage with one another differently, asking questions earlier, trying to work through it. And that takes architects, engineers, contractors, subcontractors, specialty contractors, factories, like everybody that needs to be involved has to have that same psychological safety in that project team to be able to raise their hand when they're seeing something that is off or getting someone who is over top of that team. There's leaders from all those groups, but there has to be an owner of it, not
Yep.
the owner of the project that's going to move in, but someone who will ensure and instill that is a safe space to talk through things, which isn't a company anymore. But as you have within our industry, we have to think about our own cultures within our companies and how they then enter and have to merge into a project culture. And we hear the word culture thrown around all the time. Like, what does that mean? And what has to happen? But I think you nailed it, which was we just have to be human. Sometimes
Yeah.
being human is foundation to everything. Once we recognize like that it is you and 50, hundreds, thousands of other humans
Yeah.
involved in it, you can change your perspective because you can back up and realize, like, I only know my path and journey to here and maybe a handful of others, but
Yeah.
I don't recognize anyone else's.
Sure.
And we tend to just judge first
Mm.
without asking any questions. And I just have worked with my teams of like, when just ask the questions, like, you don't know. So just find out. The more you connect with the other human, the more you understand them, like you said, with nature and connecting with that piece, or what I call just building stronger relationships.
Mm.
I say with change, but that's through steps, but just building stronger relationships, period. it just pays huge dividends.
Yeah.
When you are realizing like all these humans are again going to go home, they're going to come in with their own life
Yeah.
challenges and things they're dealing with, and they just may have a bad day.
Mm.
But if we just don't go straight to judgmental of like, how could you not know that, into a more human empathy area of, it seems like you might be having a bad day. Is there anything that would be helpful to talk about? And maybe you feel like you don't have time for that, but if you have time to judge, you have time to be curious. So that, like there's time
Mm.
to do that.
And I think it's so important, isn't it? Because like that curiosity is what prevents that judgment,
Hmm.
because if we're not asking questions and not being curious, then it becomes very easy to judge because we don't
Yeah.
understand where the other person is.
Yeah.
We talk a lot on the podcast about the power of relationships within business. And I really like when you start thinking about relationships as social capital. It
Yeah.
sounds strange, but it feels like when you think about I'm building social capital when I'm having conversations with people and getting to know people and building relationships. And that feels
Hmm.
like that's and maybe this is just me, that feels like that's a worthwhile use of my time rather than I'm just chatting to get to know somebody. Do you know what I mean? There's a slight
Yeah.
context shift because I think
Yeah, it is.
all of us are guilty about I don't have time to get to know other people. But when we start thinking about it as an asset because we're building social capital, then it got more justification for doing it, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah. The time thing is, it's amazing because it's like we all have the same amount. Like in a single day, that duration, we all have our own expectancies. One of my favorite things to do when I'm traveling is just whether it's at the hotel or at the airport, if I'm just sitting down at a restaurant and at a restaurant bar or whatever, like, I will find myself talking to somebody for 2 to 3 hours
wow.
and I'm never going to see them again. And we're just talking, just
Mhm.
having no judgment conversations, just pure interest in things that are happening in the world, to challenges they may be having, or the an industry or whatever they're in. It's that area of I'm always 100% more energized than when I sat down
Yeah.
because I'm meeting another human where I'm gaining perspective without expecting anything out of it.
Mm.
And when we start to treat it as that opportunity of finding out more about another human and what their passion is, what drives them, what's their intrinsic motivation pieces,
Mhm.
those things, there is that social return. And I don't think it's, especially since the pandemic, but since technology has really accelerated in all of our lives, we've become more time poor than
Yeah,
we've ever been.
for sure.
And we're in the next industrialized revolution. Like we shouldn't be needing to work as hard as we're working to build that social capital, to engage with one another, to look at problems from a totally different
Mhm.
perspective within our team, to our business, but as countries and regions and communities. I just see a huge opportunity if we just start talking,
Yeah.
begin to build curiosity around one another, to realize again back to that, hey, we're all just human. A
Mhm.
billion of us just all worrying about the same things fundamentally, but the power in that to go, back into the office, to realign with what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you want to help people. It goes from a transactional thing to that
Yeah.
transformational piece of, yeah, there's something bigger here. There's some other area that we really want to solve. So
Yeah.
love that you're saying that too. I think it's just such a powerful thing.
Yeah. And there's not enough of us talking about this power of curiosity and investing in building this social capital and relationships
Mhm.
within the workplace, which really transforms everything. I'm just wondering, can you share an example for us of from your experience of where you had and you managed to pull together a team that was really successful on a project, and what were some of those key dynamics that really made it work?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right ones, whether it was a project or founding a company.
Yeah.
The, a company that I went into California, like the Bay Area, was inside another company, and then we spun off. But when
Right.
I got there, we had to go through this. I was like leader number 5 for some of them. So I knew going in there was change fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Without really knowing the name, I just knew, okay, they've been through a lot and a lot of different directions and a lot of different ways of being told how to do something, like the word told.
Yeah.
And I just knew there is no way that I can approach this way. I have to try to identify those people who may resist, who the promoters will be, who can start to lead it, right? So it's not this change, these process changes and things that we would go through weren't Ryan is telling us what to do. It is Ryan's giving us the space to outline those areas that are a challenge and without any judgment, right? While at the same time trying to figure out, like, what did they know? Because I didn't know what they knew.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't even know if they knew everything that they
Mhm.
thought they needed to know in order to make this transition. Because we were going from one way to deliver projects into a totally different thing that I had been implementing with a fabricator nationally. So I'd worked with the fabricator and trying to help teams across the country start to do this. And the first thing that I would always do then, and I did it with this team, is apologize. Hey, I know that you've been through a lot and a lot of leaders, a lot of messaging, a lot of things changing. Like, so once I got everybody ingrained into the change that they would own it and that this wasn't a leader top-down driven thing, it was all of them understanding the long-term goal of what
Yep.
we were aiming to achieve. And I've even told them, like, hey, I can't give you 100% clarity because it's new and you will gain clarity with each step. Like,
Yep.
as we work through this, that's where the fog starts to lift and you'll gain the clarity. And we're going to try and test and we're going to go through things and you won't get it the first time. So we had started that, I would say, in 2017, and I left in at the end of 2023, early 2024, handing the reins over. And it was like we were going from projects where it was like one solution type, very small projects, into building nationally $20 million contracts in New York City, up
Wow.
and down the East Coast, all the way across the country. And we were known as a completely different approach
Mm.
to construction. So the team became so bought into what the goal was. And there were some struggles between some of the things, but like in the end, what I see them do now that I'm gone, a lot of them have gone out and been able to start their own company and
Wow.
go
Awesome.
into other areas and gone into new leadership roles. And that's really what I wanted as a legacy was whatever happens to this, like each of them need to go out and take
Mm.
these ideas of leadership and approach to it to go out and help other people. Identifying the fears, getting that space to them, give them psychological safety to make mistakes, give them the space needed to learn and develop and build their own process that they would buy into, that they would
Hmm.
keep, that they would run. And it's not a document. It's not, the documents exist. Here's an SOP.
Yeah.
It was humans understanding other humans to work through those challenges. So
Yeah.
you will get other humans that will come in once in a while. You try to build that culture and keep it. But the reality was that if you just set the tone of, hey, this is always a lab and we're always in
Hmm.
testing mode, constant learning and curiosity, then yeah, we'll be okay. But once we just believe we've got it all made,
Hmm.
set in, then we're in trouble when the next change comes
Yeah.
because we'll just bounce back to that old routine.
And I love that whole concept of business is just a massive experiment, right? And it's always, I remember when I set up my first business, Ryan, I was like, I wore it as a badge of honor that I'd never failed at anything. And because that's the kind of
Yeah.
mentality you came from the corporate world. And then I quickly realized, particularly once you've got your own business, actually, it's not good that you haven't failed at anything because you haven't experimented enough and you haven't tried enough. I love it that we can create environments and cultures and workplaces where people feel that psychological safety that they can experiment, because then people take so much more ownership of things and it's way more enjoyable. They're more engaged, they're more motivated, and the business has higher levels of productivity and profitability. But of course, that kind of mindset we come from, or certainly the way I was brought up, was you never want to fail. You don't want to fail an exam. You don't want to fail this. It's quite interesting, our educational mindset to actually what we need people to do in business.
Yeah, and I think we don't want to do those things because I think it's less about how we think we're going to feel. It's what everyone else might say about it.
Yeah.
And that's where that judgment, like we don't try things. In construction, we have very low net profitability, especially here in the United States. It's not a high net profitability. There's huge risk, and all of those things can be true, but you can still provide transformational kind of approach to leadership and human-centered, where that curiosity exists to allow us. We can't build enough infrastructure anywhere right now. It doesn't matter. Pick a region, right? Yeah, UK, like in Europe and everywhere else, like they're advancing some of the methodologies, like they're testing and they're trying things to where here in the States, there's more regulations or whatever. Pick where your argument lies. Like I always tell everybody, we have to have agency in this because, I don't know, we're the humans. So we have to figure it out because we could pretend the computers or the machines are coming, but we need to take that ownership and leave a legacy that we would want that next generation to come into from an industry standpoint. So each business has to look at their opportunity, not just as that business piece, but what am I doing to help create that area of curiosity such that we're trying new delivery models. We're not afraid to go into it, that or new methods of construction or engaging in new technology or whatever that might make us more efficient, which is another big word, or what that actually truly means, because big contractors, that's a difficult thing for them. Same for small, pick it, any small business, right? Large businesses, they got a lot more money to invest in R&D and other things, but it doesn't change how we look at change. And that was a bad way of putting it, but regardless of what the size of the business is, you have problems. And you got to learn to go through that ideation, do the information gathering, spend the time there, spend the time talking through it before looking for a solution. Like understanding how to get each human that space to talk through with it. You mentioned this before, where we all go into our thing. It's never more evident than the C-suite or what the operations wants versus what's the marketing want versus the CFO versus the CEO. The CEO might be driving the vision, and the CFO wants a new ERP system, but doesn't talk to operations. And operations is doing something, and marketing and BD's out doing something else. Like what's the company? No one's connected. No one's understanding those things, that an ERP is not just software. It's a huge human change. And any operational process change is a huge change. Any change in messaging means that everyone must be aligned to those things. So you can't disconnect them just because the word behind the letter C is something different. Because in the end, it is all being aligned and connected. Everybody will be impacted by even the slightest change in a business.
I know you're very passionate about legacy. Perhaps you could just share with people as we're drawing this to a close, Ryan, what's the legacy you'd like to leave in the world?
Yeah, it's funny because my former partner when I was running a construction company, was like, you really do want to change the entire industry.
Wow.
And the reality is, I'd love to, because I think we owe other humans more than we can give them.
Mm,
There's not enough labor force to take care of the demands that we have, which is driving up costs of everything. So we are
mm,
impacting that by how we react to change or to new models to those areas. From my standpoint, what I'm aiming to do is just connect with as many humans as I can, get everyone's curiosity activated enough to be willing to explore and be willing to test and to create my legacy. What I want to do is just make sure that every day that I'm working is driven towards that purpose of trying to help another human build a stronger relationship with change, so that they can lead their life as well as lead teams with more empathy. They can help people understand their feelings around control and choice and clarity and commitment as it relates to change. And when they understand that, then they can understand curiosity.
mm,
They will open those doors up in order to get to curiosity. But if clarity is not defined, and control and understanding of that, to choice and how they react to anything that's coming at them, whether they made it or someone else did, they will struggle with change.
mhm.
And that is what I want to leave, is just build a
Wow.
world that is ready to relearn, ready to test, and ready to try, while staying connected in every aspect.
Wow, what an amazing legacy. That's so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, that is amazing. Ryan, if people would like to get hold of you, get in contact with you, what's the best way that they can touch base with you? And we'll make sure that your information is in the show notes as well.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways is obviously LinkedIn for me. So I'm out on LinkedIn. You could just look up my name, Ryan Ware. I think it's like Ryan K. Ware, because there's too many Ryan Wares in the world, apparently. But on LinkedIn, just look for me with Connective Consulting. You can also look at the Connective Consulting grp.com. So group is not spelled out. That's where the main website is. You can take a look at that. I do have a YouTube channel as well. And just like you, I actually have a podcast called Activating Curiosity,
Cool.
where I focus on the construction industry and pull people all around the world that are really focusing on solving a big problem for the industry. LinkedIn is one of those areas where you can easily find me, ping me, reach out. The website is the other.
Okay.
Take a listen to the podcast, and just,
Yeah.
you never know. There's little nuggets there that I try to give for everybody.
Whether you're in construction or you're in professional services or you're in retail, there's bits that we can all learn from everything. And the best ideas actually are often ones that are ported from other industries into our industry.
Yeah,
So I always encourage people to listen to what's
yeah,
happening in other industries, because that's where you find some gene of brilliance and you're like, oh God, how could I take the idea from construction and apply it over here in a different industry? And that
yeah.
is really a power of curiosity. So there's an idea over here. How can we make that work over here?
And I think for all those that are listening, like you're in that service industry or you're working with other humans, don't try, you catch yourself. You feel yourself judging before you've asked that question. Just get that first step of self-awareness, because we all do it. I can't say I'm perfect. There are definitely some humans right now for me in DC that I judge, but I just probably need to ask more questions.
Ryan, thank you so much for your time and energy today. I've really enjoyed exploring the whole topic of curiosity with you, learning a bit more about the construction industry and leading teams there, and also to be inspired by your legacy. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us again on this edition of Impactful Teamwork. And until next time, I think from Ryan and I, stay curious, and we're interested to hear what you discover by being more curious in your work. So thank you, everyone. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favourite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners. Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember, you and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?